Former President Trump sat down in late May for an interview with Tim Pool, a right-wing influencer. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Donald Trump did an interview with Tim Pool. That's interesting, isn't it? Where they commiserated about the money America has spent to help Ukraine after that country was invaded by Russia. Putin respects me. Zelensky respects me, Trump told Pool about Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. I know all the players and I want to get that war ended. What a fool, seriously. I've seen no evidence to suggest that Trump knew in that moment that Russian money was paying to support that podcast. Poole now says he was in the dark about the alleged Russian money backing the company promoting his show. I'm sure by now most people probably heard Tim Pool is being paid by Russia to pump out absurd, nonsensical garbage, like Russian propaganda. I want to talk about this because it's an evolving story and there's a lot more to this than one would think. But, it should have tipped us off when we heard Tim Pool saying things like this.
But I don't know that it matters anymore. This is psychotic. Ukraine is the enemy of this country. Ukraine is our enemy, being funded by the Democrats. I will stress this again. One of the greatest enemies of our nation right now is Ukraine.
Why? Why is Ukraine the enemy? I can't imagine it's for any other reason than because he's being paid to be oppositional to Ukraine or to Russia's enemies. Like, I just don't get it.
They are expanding this war. Now, don't get me wrong. I know you've got criminal elements of the U.S. government pushing them and guiding them and telling them what to do.
It's just like made up nonsense.
Ukraine is now accused, a German warrant issued for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline, triggering this conflict.
The Nord Stream pipeline did not trigger this conflict. That happened after the conflict had already started, and nobody had any idea who did it for like a really long time. I'm not sure if Ukraine did it. I don't know if we know yet, or if we ever will, honestly, if it'll ever be public, but to portray Ukraine as the aggressors is just wild to me. I mean, Putin lined up, how many was it? Like 200,000 troops or something on Ukraine's borders in the months leading up to the full-scale war happening. Hundreds of thousands of people. And then Putin orders them to enter Ukraine, triggers the beginning of the war. How did he get to this is a defensive move by Russia because Nord Stream pipeline was attacked? What?
Ukraine is the greatest threat to this nation and to the world. We should rescind all funding and financing, pull out all military support, and we should apologize to Russia.
Apologize to Russia. Like, it doesn't just stop at, I don't want to be in this war. He takes it a step further. That's nuts, man. This is a complicated subject, so I want to talk about, like, the intricacies of it. In a second, we're going to take a look at an article about it. But to my understanding, this criminal indictment unequivocally proves these people's involvement, and Tim basically admitted to it afterward, as we'll see in a second. Here's how it worked. There's a company called Tenet Media that has 6 people on its payroll, basically. And these 6 people were being paid $100,000 per video, I think, to produce 1 video a week in perpetuity, just until the contract comes to an end. But here's the weird thing about it, okay? I mean, it's already weird. $100,000 a video? It gets even weirder because Tenet Media had a non-exclusivity clause, which means Tim Pool is just licensing his videos to this company. He's just allowing them to post it on their own YouTube channel. And Tim is posting stuff on his channel. How did you hear that deal and think to yourself, this couldn't possibly go wrong? There's no nefarious or funny business happening here. They're getting, how much is it, like $5 million a year or something? $5 million per year for doing nothing. Like, the Daily Wire tried to buy Steven Crowder out as a content producer or whatever forever ago, and they offered him $50 million. Like, that's a lot of money. But $50 million was over the course of 4 years, and they had exclusive rights to his content. That means he doesn't make money from the videos anymore. They make the money. That's not happening with Tenet Media. Steven Crowder is, I believe, the largest conservative YouTuber or whatever political commentator on the far right on the platform, to my knowledge. Or he was at one point, at the very least. And he's worth, in Daily Wire's eyes, like 10 million a year. That's like probably way overvalued, but okay. And that was for exclusivity. How did Tim Pool not see this happening? And Dave Rubin and Benny Johnson and others. Lauren Chen apparently owns Tenet Media with her husband, Edward Gregorian. Those are the founders, anyway. So a Russian, like, affiliate company, basically, was feeding $10 million into this machine, trying to get these people to talk about, things that were helpful to Russia or whatever. And these people are getting like 5 million a year for nothing. It's just crazy. So Lauren Chen, Edward Gregorian, the founders, didn't get their check one time. I checked into this. They emailed the benefactors, the Russian company or whatever, to ask them, like, where's the money? When they didn't respond, they Googled, what time is it in Russia? That's pretty dead to rights that they knew that it was a Russian company backing them, right? On the surface, it was a company stationed in Paris, to my knowledge. But they knew what was going on. Why are Lauren Chen and Edward Gregorian not in trouble for this too? Dude, I wonder if that's going to be on Conservapedia. You think? This whole mess with Russian propaganda? All right, let's just take like a quick look at some of these news articles about it. Pro-Trump influencers allegedly secretly funded by Russia now call themselves victims. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Look at Tim Pool's tweets about it. I remember back when they said I was funded by the CIA, then it was right-wingers, now it's the Russians. Tomorrow it'll be, I don't know, like Poland or something. He is actually being paid by Russia. Whether he knew or not, I don't know. But he was definitely being paid by Russia. Here's another one. I've been contacted by the FBI. By the way, I don't know if you can see, but if you look real closely here, you'll notice that he has a Ukraine flag in his, in his Twitter name or whatever now. That wasn't there before. I've been contacted by the FBI as a potential victim of a crime. The FBI believes I have information relevant to an ongoing criminal investigation and have requested a voluntary interview. I'll be offering my assistance in this matter. I mean, these people are so absurd. It's like they're parodies of themselves now. It's a caricature of themselves. He says, upon reflection, I now understand that Ukraine is our greatest ally. As the breadbasket of Europe and a peace-loving people, we cannot allow the fascist Russians to continue their crimes against humanity. We must redouble our efforts and provide an additional $200 billion at once. I'm sure that this was satirical, considering the fact that just, I don't know, within an hour or a day or something, he said that this is fake and that he wasn't funded by Russia and that you're stupid for believing it. Oh my God, dude. It should be illegal to not believe in God. Yeah, I forgot I put that in here. This dude is full-blown fascist and now taking money from Russia, or he has been the whole time, I guess. We're just finding out about it now. So this article on USA Today, I don't usually use them as a source, but in this case, I checked the article. It seems okay. Former President Trump sat down in late May for an interview with Tim Pool, a right-wing influencer. Oh yeah, forgot about that. Donald Trump did an interview with Tim Pool. That's interesting, isn't it? Where they commiserated about the money America has spent to help Ukraine after that country was invaded by Russia. So there is a network right now where money could pass to Donald Trump from Russia with plausible deniability. This Russian company could pay Tim Pool extra money for doing something, up his salary or something, and then Tim Pool pays Trump $5 million to come on his show or something. I don't think that's what happened, but there is a network that could conceivably make that happen if they wanted, pretty easily. Somewhere in Russia, someone must have been thinking at that time that pouring $10 million in the past year into the company that promotes Pool's podcast, Timcast IRL, and a small band of similarly provocative conservative content creators was a very smart investment. Putin respects me. Zelensky respects me, Trump told Pool about Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. I know all the players and I want to get that war ended. What a fool, seriously. I've seen no evidence to suggest that Trump knew in that moment that Russian money was paying to support that podcast. Poole now says he was in the dark about the alleged Russian money backing the company promoting his show. Yeah, it kind of bothers me when they say alleged constantly. Like, that doesn't avail you of accountability. Like, if you're lying and you know for a fact that this is not true and you're putting it up there anyway, allegedly is not going to save you from litigation. And if you actually do believe it, you don't need allegedly because you're stating a belief. It's like, oh my God, there's a term for this. It's suddenly slipping my mind. I can't remember. But anyway, it's part of defamation. You have to meet like a burden of proof, basically. Anyway, just nuts. Check this out. YouTube removes alleged Russia-funded outlet hosting Tim Pool, Benny Johnson videos. YouTube took down multiple channels Thursday, including one owned by Tenet Media that hosted live streams and segments from shows by right-wing pundits like Tim Pool and Benny Johnson, and whose operations were alleged in a Justice Department indictment to have been funded by Russia. It's like I said, it's even deeper than that. It's not just they took down the channels that host live streams and segments. It's that they took down channels that are just like borrowing the videos, just buying their the rights to also post them. This is just insane to me. Here's the real question. Tell me what you think in the comments. Did they know? Did Dave Rubin know? Did Tim Pool know? Benny Johnson, Lauren Chen, all of them. Did they know what was happening? I don't know how somebody could be so stupid as to not realize that this deal is too good to be true. Tenet's YouTube channel had around 316,000 subscribers, wow, before it was taken down and featured clips, segments, and live streams of shows hosted by right-wing pundits, including Tim Pool and Benny Johnson. Users clicking on the channel's link are now greeted with a message saying it was removed. At the time of publishing, Tenet's website is still online, and it lists Poole, Johnson, Dave Rubin, Lauren Southern. Oh, that's another one I forgot about. Taylor Hanson and Matt Christensen. I don't know the other two. As part of its talent roster, despite many of them distancing themselves from the company. Tenet's other social media handles, including TikTok, X, Instagram, and Facebook, also remain online, but their last posts were made late Wednesday or early Thursday. Tenet's video channel on Rumble, which has positioned itself as a YouTube alternative that's immune to cancel culture, is still up with all the same videos as its defunct YouTube channel. So here's their Rumble channel. 9 days old, apparently. So which one is it? Is this just like anti-protest propaganda? It seems like it. The Culture War, Kamala and Black America from Tim Pool. Oh my God, dude.
Amen.
She didn't say all the time.
All the time.
Oh.
And so you had the media come out like, oh, look at that. See, she's not black. She doesn't even know. She's not from.
What do you think's under that stupid beanie? Do you think there's anything under that beanie? Is it all just hot air? Wow, man, that's absolutely nuts. This is like truly mind-blowing to me, honestly. How Russian operatives covertly hired U.S. influencers to create viral videos. Federal officials have accused Russia of using unwitting right-wing American influencers in its quest to spread Kremlin propaganda ahead of the 2024 presidential election. I mean, you know, this happened in 2016 too, and there was a trove of memes and stuff that Russia produced and spread through our social media systems. You can download them, but let me see if I can just like pull some of them up real quick. It's not on the Wikipedia page, really. Do they not have any Russian propaganda posters? Russia was actually pushing Bernie Sanders pretty hard because they knew that Democrats needed Bernie supporters to vote for Hillary to win. A third party is a spoiler. So they start releasing stuff about Bernie Bros, talking about how Bernie Bros are awesome and they hate Hillary and they're not voting for her and all this other stuff. And, you know, pushing like a big bot network going on Twitter and talking about being a Bernie Bro and not voting for Hillary constantly. There are a couple specifically that I was looking for. This is nature.com, pretty trustworthy. What's the graph for? Exposure to tweets from state-sponsored accounts over time among survey respondents. Wow. Look at that. State-sponsored accounts, like Russia state-sponsored accounts. That's nuts, man. The bar graph just keeps going up and up and up if you're listening. Absolutely insane. Anyway, I guess this is their new plot to pay influencers to do what they want, to say what they want. This is Lauren on the left, I believe. Listen to these people talking about Russia and everything.
What do you think when you watch these videos of queues for jobs? You know, we've got the mass immigration
Queues for
issue,
jobs.
Indians just all lining up outside Tim Hortons.
So the first thing that crosses my mind, Lauren, is it's terrifying because it's all too reminiscent.
Dude, they got a Russian on to talk about like joblessness or whatever. Can it be any more on the nose than that?
Because it's all too reminiscent of the life I lived under communist USSR when I was a child. I recall these lines.
Oh, please. So if you see a line in a country, then it's because of communism or whatever, right? Oh my God, dude. It is so stupid. The sad thing is, like, who's going to believe this, right? Almost nobody. But some will. Some percentage, 4% of the people that see it, maybe 5%, 10%. And the more stuff they see that's like backing up these ideas, the more likely they will be to believe it.
While standing in these lines with my mom, in the bread lines, in the food lines, whatever lines there was. And it's truly
Whatever lines. I was standing in all the lines.
there was. And it's truly terrifying to see that happening in Canada. It's just like a nightmare flashback across my eyes.
Yeah, that's not happening in Canada, though. What are you talking about? Bread lines, food lines? Those aren't in Canada like that. What are you going on about right now? Like, she's simply trying to propagandize to people through her bought and paid for social media influencer. It's just a joke. Yeah, this is Lauren Chen right here.
When it comes to dealing with the rights woman problem, there are definitely those of you out there who will just say, well, it's simple. We need to repeal the 19th. And
19th Amendment is women's right to vote, I think, basically.
And trust me, I am no fan of the 19th Amendment myself. I think it more so than anything else solidified in our consciousness the idea that the political process should be one person, one vote, which is not a good system. I don't believe in democracy.
Wow, man. You know, I don't want to go down this whole road right now, but I'm reading a lot about like Germany in the 1930s because I'm writing about it right now. By the way, check out my book. If it's not out yet, it will be soon. Just owenmorgan.com to find that. And check out my Patreon. Anyway, I'm writing about this, and I came across like this book that talks about the origins of like the Aryan thing. Aryanism is fake, obviously, but where did it come from? Turns out that it was heavily pushed in the early 1900s, like, 1902, basically, like around that time, the turn of the century, by a guy named Houston Stewart Chamberlain. And he wrote like this whole thing about how there were two races. There's the Aryan race, and then there's the Jewish race. And it's an eternal struggle against the two. And Aryans are super powerful and smart and all this other stuff. And Jews are just like shifty and evil. And he said that Catholicism is like evil too, because Jews created Catholicism and they're like manipulating it behind the scenes. But Martin Luther, when he split off like with the Protestant split in the 1500s or whatever, he was doing God's work, creating a church that's truly free of Jews. I mean, it's crazy stuff, right? One of those odd things about him was that he hated democracy. I actually wrote about this. Again, thought leader in the Nazi movement, along with a guy named Rosenberg, who picked up where Chamberlain left off, basically. But here's what I have in my notes about this. Jews created democracy and capitalism, both. Capitalism was created to take advantage of Aryans, by Jews, of course. Socialism was created to mitigate the impact of capitalism. He wanted a corporatist system similar to what Mussolini had in Italy, which is where like all of the corporations get together and plan out economic policy, basically, which is like literally the worst thing that could possibly happen. Chamberlain wanted a dictatorship, the end of capitalism, and the creation of a corporatist society. Rule of oligarchs and aristocrats that would run a planned economy via scientific management, quote unquote, militarization of society. And I wrote down worship of mammonism is evil here because that's what it's all about. Anyway, absolutely insane stuff. I mean, it's crazy enough that she's talking about like not wanting women to vote, but this idea of like hating democracy has its roots in far right ideology all the way back from 100 years ago.
System. I don't believe in democracy. I believe individual rights and limited government are way more important than the idea of everybody having a vote. And if the past few generations have showed us anything, it's that democracy and individual rights and limited government don't often go hand in hand.
Yeah, so the guy wanted just kind of a set of the most intelligent elites at the very top to run a democracy basically among each other. So like, oh, and he was a monarchist too, Chamberlain was. So he wanted an emperor and he wanted, the inner circle to run things and vote on things and everything else. And the people just live there and that's it. Just wild to me, the parallels that I see today, in all kinds of different places, in all kinds of different influencers' mouths.
Don't often go hand in hand. I'm in favor of a limited franchise. And by the way, no, that's not a radical position. That is the position that the founding fathers have.
Unlimited franchise. Okay, I'm not sure. Hang on. Universal suffrage or universal franchise ensures the right to vote for as many people bound by a government's laws as possible, as supported by the one person, one vote principle. For many, the term universal suffrage assumes the exclusion of the young and non-citizens, among others. Oh, wow. Okay. So you can vote even if you're like a baby. Interesting. I've never heard of that before.
Franchise rights and limited government don't often go hand in hand. I'm in favor of a limited franchise and by
Did she say a limited franchise? I think she said limited franchise. Anyway, wild stuff, man. This is what Russia is paying for right here. Absolutely nuts. Tell me what you think.